Folks, we are live. Welcome to the Random Party Generator, RPG for short, right?
Mm.
Your twice a month Friday live stream. With me tonight, this is the panel thus far. Rob Conley from Bat in the Attic Games, Tim Shorts, Gothridge Manor, and
Okay.
your OSR bartender, myself, Eric Tenkar. Joe is on vacation, so if you're watching this on Joe's feed, more power to you, but he might not show. And Greg might have husbandly duty.
Yeah, I
His
think
wife is sick.
he's been
Yeah.
His wife is ill. So this is your panel. Um, so and of course we have done 2 weeks of show prep.
that's right. Oh, full
Not
2 weeks. Yep.
yeah, full 2 hours of show prep, 2 days, two
Yep.
minutes.
Exhaustive. Yep.
Yeah,
2 minutes.
yeah. The show prep was everybody. Who's on for tonight? What? Uh, the dulcet
Pretty
tones
much.
of I.
What's that?
Everybody,
Oh,
I
Ivy.
said, yeah. Everybody waved to
I'm good.
Ivy.
Let me know if you're not, okay?
All right, we're on.
Have fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
All she didn't leave off was have fun with your little friends.
Yeah, pretty much. Usually she calls you guys goobers. Have fun with the
Okay.
goobers. Yeah.
Okay.
has fun with the goobers. That
No,
must be. Is that like a New Jersey term? Is that like?
it
'Cause
must be.
it
Yeah.
must be a Jersey term. Just throwing it out there. Yes, folks, prep is overrated. We try to avoid it. There's a little prep, and there's a change in our choice of language. We no longer Rob now does show and tell. Okay, so um, you want
All
yes
right.
tell
Well, the first thing I got
Let's see what
is
you got.
there's a this came out about 2 years ago, but it appears to be on sale at Amazon. But it's the token illustrated version of Lord of the Rings, and it's a pretty nice book. Back in the '90s, I bought a red leather uh, version. That was my go-to copy, but it's actually kind of falling apart. That I read it so many times. So I saw this and figured it would be worthwhile getting. And all the drawings in here are done by J.R.R. Tolkien himself.
that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, so it's feels very high quality. I would treat it with a little TLC. The papers are thin to keep the book to a manageable size, but pretty much like the red leather bound one, and it has a bookmark. Oh, and the maps are not attached, which is nice.
Really?
So
Hmm.
they give you two in this version. They give you the Minas Tirith Mordor map,
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Well, actually, that's a pretty cool version. I like that.
and yeah, both of these are the Christopher Tolkien, drawn by Christopher Tolkien version, and then of course the map of Middle Earth with the red letters.
Wow.
So at $35 or so, well worth the price. If you
Oh,
don't
that's
have
on the
if you don't have
website.
if you don't have your edition. Oh, and this is neat. So this is not an actually part.
Oh, it's cut out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. Looked that little piece. I was like, is that raised? It certainly looked like it was special. Now I know why.
Yeah, those
Okay.
are pretty slick. So, and I'm sure most everybody in the audience have heard this. It's the new 50, the making of original Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
How's it different from all the rest of them? Because they seem like they've come out with a lot of those in the past couple of years.
Well, this one is all about showing you the original document. It has some commentary in it,
Okay.
including an unfortunate that I'm not going to get into intro, but you can quickly plow past that. But its strong point.
Wait a minute. No. An unfortunate intro. What is?
Yeah.
I didn't.
What's
I
his
guess I
name?
didn't hear. But
Was it Tandro?
Yeah, I'll just read it. I'll just get it out of the way. Rip that bandage off.
All right.
yeah.
All right, there are two of
This
them.
is not the place to be nice or subtle. So.
Yeah, but I just had my fill for the last month of that kind of stuff. So there's two intros. One by John Peterson.
Okay.
And another one is by this guy named Jason Tondro, who I
never heard of him.
Yeah, I think he.
Oh, here he's one of the senior game designers for D&D. He used to be at Pathfinder, and I understand he was when he was at Paizo. He's the one that organized their union. So he was a union organizer, which actually I'm a lifetime union member in my retirement. So I give credit where credit is due. But Watsy's a non-union shop, so I don't know why you'd leave a union shop. But in any case,
sure.
But that's who he is.
Okay, so the preceding paragraph goes. This book presents D&D as it was first imagined. Gives a short overview of it. Short overview of its original inspiration, and then the part that got everybody up in arms is some language in the first iteration of D&D presents a moral quandary. The document reproduced in this book includes many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monsters, spells, and magic items. But that game content includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory languages, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability who happen to be old, fat, or not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. Some people have charitably attributed this language to author working from bad assumptions. And then he talks about the 70s. And the examples he gives are the fighting man. Like, okay.
It should have, because he thinks it could have been fighting person, I guess. But
anyway, and it quickly morphed into fighter, which is anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one specific where he has any type of case is when in the pages of Greyhawk, the description of the Queen of Chaotic Dragons include a dig at women's lib, which it does, which should not have been in there. And then he criticizes deities, gods, demigods, and heroes, especially for the fact that it can include the Hindu, a list of Hindu deity, like Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, and the fact that they gave him monster stats.
But and here's the thing that I happen to know somebody who follows the Norse religion. Okay, practices it. So now, should they be? And they're a gamer, of course. Should they be offended that this was included? Because I mean, he says part of what Tondo says is like, because the players are going to want to take the magic sword from Vishnu, whatever. Hey, I wanted Thor's magic axe. Doesn't mean I ever got it. It was interesting to see the stats for it. If you were GM, you could include it in the game as an example, but you didn't have to. I mean, the idea of being god killers, and I heard about campaigns like that, never was in a campaign I was in. I heard those stories, but that was never anything that I experienced or any of my friends experienced. But I learned mythology from deities and demigods. I learned so much. Now, I didn't care about the elven and dwarven races. I wanted to know about real world religions that I hadn't experienced, and I didn't have access to Time Life books at that time to give me an introduction to it. So this was my introduction, and I thought it was fairly respectful. But if you're looking for issues, you're going to find issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one I noted, and I read these books extensively, and the only one that leapt out at me was the crack at Women's Lib in Greyhawk. That was the thing that didn't need to be in there, and maybe, and I would not include because it was a living religion at the time. I would not include the Hindu deities. As far as the Norse deities go, that's I don't think that what people worship, the people who follow the Norse pantheon, that particular variation didn't exist in the 70s. I think its origins were a little bit later.
That's
It
quite
was around
possible.
that time, but it didn't.
You know, I
People were
mean, here's my issue with these disclaimers is, and at least he gives you an example, right? But when you just make this like blanket statement that it was offensive to
Mm-hmm.
fat people, old people, women, minorities, you know what? You're kind of saying look for the offense, and if you don't find the
Right.
offense, then there's a problem with you. And
Right.
that's what I find. If there's really something offensive, make that disclaimer specifically. Hey, this book specifically states, I don't know, all dwarven women have beards. If you are a bearded woman in real life, I don't want you to be offended, or whatever. I know it's a stupid example,
Right.
but I mean, it should be an actual example of what's offensive, not oh well, some material from this era of publishing before we bought the company could be considered offensive to some people who take offense. And if you're offended, we are giving you a disclaimer that we're not responsible to your offense. It was the prior generation that was obnoxious and didn't care to act any better. That's just my take on it. Somebody can take that out of content, by the way. And
It's,
guarantee.
yeah, it's I've ordered a new T-shirt, and I'll just refer to that anytime I experience this stuff. And basically, my T-shirt, new T-shirt says, "Smart people don't get offended." Period.
Yeah, my mom. I
It's sort of
grew
like,
up.
okay,
My mom was one of the first. Was one of the early women coaches in the state of Pennsylvania who coached a boys team. She coached it. You know, Meadville didn't have a coach for the boys swimming team, and my mom was the only one competent enough to do it, or even have the interest to do it. Before it was coached by the football coach, and so she took it over and turned it into a competitive program. And my mom didn't take crap from anybody, and that's who raised me, my mom and dad. But my mom had a lot to do with it, and
I can vouch for that. She didn't take any crap.
yeah, she did not take in any crap.
Yeah.
And if I ever showed anybody that kind of disrespect, I would have never heard of the end of it. But back to what's good about the book.
I was going to say, that was just sort of it's unfortunate they chose to lead off with that, but I guess you can get past that, then it's got some better content. I'm assuming.
Right, and it's obviously that John Peterson, his hand is all over this, and
He's awesome.
he mentioned it very briefly, and then just Peterson dives right in. So the focus of the book is on the original material, and so, for example, you will find here some hand sketches of the original maps of Greyhawk.
Can you make that bigger?
Yeah. Sorry, I was at.
There you
So
go.
that was used by the Castles and Crusade Society as part of their campaign, and later it was in the role playing campaign.
Oh, it's fun. I like that.
And they found two different versions. There's actually three versions of this, but they get to the other one later. As you can see, it's not quite the Greyhawk that we first bought, but you can see the beginnings of it in there, and including the area where Dave carved out for Blackmore. But
Now,
okay,
go ahead.
go on.
I
No,
was going to say that my understanding is if you look at the new Grey Book material that's going to be coming out in the DMG, Blackmore is no longer on the map. But I have to verify that. But that's what I've been told.
that
So
doesn't. It doesn't look. That part doesn't look like it's due to anything being politically correct. That
no,
that
no,
smacks of legal reasons.
yep, that's what I thought.
But to their credit, they did try to work in a homage. They called it the Land of Arn.
Fair enough. Okay, so I was right. Of course, Rob would know. That's what we have, Rob. Oh, but Rob, you bled on your book, by the way.
No, that comes with the book. But we can see, why Gygax took the time in this newsletter to reprint the 1911 Britannica article on pole arms.
Right. He did love his pole arms, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So it shows you original newsletter. It shows you. It doesn't print the. This is the second printing of chainmail. The one you can get now is the third, but this is the one they were working off. Dave Ayrton was working off of as far as his Blackmore campaign and what Gygax used. And they give you the fantasy supplement section, including Tim. You'll recognize this. Flip through it. The jousting matrix.
Yes, I do remember the jousting matrix. Yes.
And for folks, if you're looking for a quick and nice way that has a little bit of a game to it, dealing with joust, this still works even after 50 years. So I recommend this. So, and then we get to the part that really got everybody excited, and that is the first type draft of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, very cool.
I believe he handwrote something that he used to run his very first game, but then he quickly typed it up. So, and this is the one he shared with first Dave Ayrton, and then they made carbon copies. That's why it's blue. So, and actually, for some reason, certain sections of original D&D, this explains better. It didn't make it into the original book.
When I flipped through, I noticed some of that, and I was like, wonder if that was edited out, like the Elven rules were edited down because of space concerns? I don't know.
It was weird because, for example, let's see, wait, let me get this in focus. But here it talks about the elves, and then it talks about how to handle that note about they progressed in fighting man and magic users. So here they say after progressing to the maximum level in one class, the elves may accumulate experience point in the other class. So you're supposed to pick fighting man or magic user, get up to max level, and then switch over to the other class. And then when you do that, you get to use, it explained over here that you can use the ability for both.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was they could switch between classes, how they wanted to do it.
That's how it was interpreted, or that's how it came out. But initially it sounds a lot like the Bard class.
Yeah.
Right.
AD&D.
So what you're saying, Tim, is a valid interpretation as OD&D was published, but this is how.
But that's the original. Okay. Oh yeah, that's
right. And then
interesting to see that.
So it overall the document is a lot like a person who decides to take their house rule and turn it into a full rule set for people to use at the table. But you can see all the beginnings, and there's a little bit of path not taken in here, but all in all, it's a pretty interesting read. It only has, for people who don't know, OD&D only has the cleric, fighter, and magic user, as
Right.
their class. And basically, the document's in two parts. They get into details about the combat system. Then the back half, oh, even a hand sketch of the original dungeon.
I love it. Yeah, that's cool.
But then they get into, oh, and this is what they took the illustrations for all the parts of a castle
Oh,
building.
okay.
And but then the back half is Gygax typing up all the monsters and spells and magic items. Oh, these are the spells. So
Right.
this and this is a full reprint, and it occupies a pretty big chunk of the
Pretty
book.
big chunk of the book.
Yeah.
And then, but they don't stop there. Now they talk about, okay, they've done that. Then they show a little bit of other bits and pieces that they found over the years. And, here are what they call the cleanup crew list. The
Okay.
ochre jelly, the black pudding, the green slime.
The dungeon janitors, is that what they
Yeah.
are? I got you.
I believe they're called the cleanup crew,
That's great.
including little illustrations.
Back in 1972.
And somewhere they have some examples of the correspondence between Dave Aronson and Gary Gygax as they work through this. Then they reprint not the one you can buy on Drive-Thru RPG, but the very first printing.
Right.
And this one has the hobbits, the ents, the balrogs. So they include all three books. I know I'm flipping through this rapidly.
That's okay.
But volume 2. For those you don't know, OD&D was published in 3 volumes that were sold as a box set for the price that everybody bitched about, $10. They said it was too expensive. And then they printed some newsletters, including Gygax reaching out to people. This was an article in Europa, a wargaming magazine, where Gygax explains some of what he does. And so this actually helps people. If you frequent the old school forum, a lot of people refer to this because, when people trying to figure out how to play OD&D, how it was played back in the day, this stuff was helpful. But now we can read it for ourselves. And then they showed a copy of the Strategic Review, which was the first newsletter that TSR put out. And this had the random dungeon tables.
I love that. Yeah, I love that part. Yeah, those tables, those are great.
And for those of you who were lucky enough to buy the Dragon CD while it was still available, you guys already know what that looks like because it was in there. Then they have the Greyhawk supplement. And which was, now, for those of you, OD&D is kind of its own thing. For example, all weapons do 1d6 damage. So it plays a little different than what you expect classic D&D. But if you use the Greyhawks supplement, this is where D&D became the D&D. I mean, yeah, you have your homes, your BX, your beast, your mind, but they're all basically variations of the original 3 books and this.
Right.
So, because this is what introduced exceptional strength. This is what introduced, fighters got a D8 per hit dice. Clerics still were at a D6. Magic users got a D4. It introduced the thief class, and you now have 9th level spells. It goes up to clerics go up to. This is where the higher level spells were introduced, like the 7th level spells. Oh, this is where the magic missiles was introduced. So now, after this, oh, and this is what one of the early drawings of owl bears. Then they come out with what was Dave. Oh, they have another strategic review here. Here we go. Here's an early D&D cartoon. So they were doing humor. So this is Dave Aronson's Blackmore supplement, which Tim Cash traditionally had nothing good to say about because he effectively had to rewrite this because Dave just gave him a folder full of notes.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
But-
Steve Marsh tells that story. That it was literally, I think Steve and Tim were given the task of making sense out of this pile of notes that was handed to them.
So this has the very first published D&D venture, the Temple of Frogs.
Temple of Frogs, right?
I wish it said it was something special, but it's actually, it reads more like a, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It reads like a Harn, like a Harn Castle article. It's basically a place in the swamp that's under the control of the cult of the frog, and it's got tons of people in it. Good luck,
Good luck.
RPG Grandma says she died in that temple. So, yeah.
Oh, picture of a chimera. This is actually a good picture of a chimera.
Yeah, that actually is not too bad.
And finally, we get, I guess, what everybody. This is this is another strategic view where it's not the 9 alignment, it's the 5 alignments. So they have the right here. These are the 5 alignments.
That's right. Neutral, lawful good, chaotic evil, lawful evil. That was it. There was no neutral variations.
And this is the first. This is one of the early that you did as a kid when you saw one of the naked pictures in D&D. This one was front and center on the cover, and this was Eldritch Wizardry, which I believe introduces the monk class and demons.
Dun dun dun.
See if I can. They have a picture. Oh, and psionics. They introduced psionics.
Well, I'm
Did they
offended
make
by
any more
psionics.
sense then?
Yeah, the psionics needs a disclaimer even back then. I'm offended.
There you go. Type 2, type 3, type 1. Type 4. Another naked chick. Demogorgon.
Derbies.
Type 5. Orcus. And then they introduce artifacts.
Artifacts, yeah.
But they gave you the abilities for them. You had to refer to this master table.
Oh, you didn't fill it in yourself in your DMG?
Yeah, you're rolling them up. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. You refer to this table to figure out what the abilities are.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and then they just wrap up they show you some early Dragon magazine, like the first time that the Balut appeared, the dreaded land shark.
Land shark.
And then they talk briefly about God, deity, demigods, and hero. Probably the reason they don't include it because it had Conan, as well as other people's IP in it. So that, my friend, is what you get. So my personal recommendation, it is pricey at $100, but I would recommend getting it if you have an interest in this stuff. Just ignore the one introduction and just move on to the good stuff. Oh, and also it's very high quality, and it has 4 bookmarks in it.
which
I
is
thought
actually
it-
pretty cool. Now, one thing I've noticed about Amazon is Amazon no longer offers it for sale. So that tells me that this is a limited print run. You're going to have to go to actual bookstores, perhaps, to follow it, to find it, or special order it. Because I do it. This is the second time. I thought it was just like a quirk when I did this last week, but I just did it now as Rob was talking, and I did a search, and it knows what you're asking for, and it.
Right.
I don't. The first thing that comes up is art and arcana.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
Oh,
Yep.
the art book or something like that.
Yeah, the art book. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
hold on
think
a second.
somebody mentioned it.
actually,
I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's nice, but it's it's very hard to voluntarily give any money to Wizards of the Coast anymore. It's just
No.
like, ugh, just the thought of it. Just I don't know. Oh, so it's got all
the
those.
search, the
Yeah.
making
Oh,
of
so it's
original Dungeons and Dragons, and yeah, it's not one of the hits. So, oh my God, we got a chubby funster.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
How's it going, Greg?
It's going good. I didn't know you worked for Wayland. Man,
Yeah.
you were in the
Yep.
hat. You were in the hat. Yeah.
Hey, I even got this. I got the T-shirt too. I bought I drank the company Kool-Aid.
When we were all on Google Plus, I had my occupation listed as Wayland Utani engineer.
Oh, did
something
you?
like that for years.
Well, yeah, I got a matching shirt to go with it. So it's one of my stealth nerd shirts that I wear at work. Those who know. Those who
Yeah,
don't.
that's right. They don't
you
even
know.
know what it is.
Right. Exactly. It's funny
So
when I
what's-
wear my
That's
miscreant shirt. They ask about
Oh,
that.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's happening?
Rob was doing a show and tell.
Show and tell.
Hey,
Yeah.
Show and
I don't see anything now.
no, he was bringing out. He was show and telling the the new making of 1970 to 1977 book.
Yeah.
So I wonder if would I own the value of my book just by ripping out the preface. Probably, I would probably not be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I
I don't care how good it is after it gets to that preface. Yeah,
Well,
I mean it just they have so much contempt for the people who built everything that they benefit from today. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
this is
that's
all racist and sexist. Give us $99, please.
That's right. It's totally unethical to do that. Also,
You got to pay for the privilege to be offended. You must pay for that privilege. And by the way, that's a good one, TXG. Yes, Ollie's will have it for $3 in a couple of months.
Well, I was talking to somebody about Shadow Sun today, and this person who didn't game, and I was telling them this is how the thing is and all this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds pretty dark," and I'm like, "That's exactly why Wizards of the Coast won't do it anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, hey,
It's
I'm
too
fine.
dark.
It's too scary. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. Well, I mean, we've all seen the art, right? I mean, and the art isn't, the art quality isn't bad, but it is so safe, so inoffensive. It's just like, I mean, unless you're offended by Mexican orcs. If you're offended by Mexican orcs, then it's offensive. But if you just look at the artwork as a piece of artwork, there's no action, there's no excitement, and I don't care if you're talking about dwarven culture, seeing dwarves working an active forge and baking scones at the same time with a cat roaming around the forge.
Yeah. That cat would be dead in a day.
I mean,
But-
if you've ever had a cat
it would jump right in. I actually have a picture from, God, it's over 10 years now, of a pizza that I had pulled out of the oven and I had put it on the counter to cool down. And I took a picture. There's 2 huge cat paws where it just double fisted right into it, and realized that was a mistake. And I had to wrap the cat's paws in cold like paper towel that I had wet, and just hold it for like an hour to try to make sure that the skin didn't burn.
Oh,
I
God.
mean, yeah, there's no way you could run a forge with a cat hanging out right next to you.
No.
It wouldn't have a tail. It wouldn't
and-
have a face. It would be dead.
You know, I mean,
Do I want to know what this is about?
we're talking about the
Wizards of
dwarven
the
art.
Coast art. Yeah.
The dwarven art, where they got a forge of and it's dwarves, and it's a forge. It's an
I
active
know what it
forge.
is. It's a cozy picture of dwarves, which somehow.
With the cat walking around with the person that's bringing the scones. I had a cat that walked over a candle, went on fire, and looked around like, "What's that smell?" And it was burning cat food. I'm a cat person. I love cats. Right away we're like, "Holy shit!
Cats.
Wow, put it out." They put the candle out, and it's like no more candles. But it was a low candle, and she just walked over it and went, and it's like, so cats and flames, cats is oh God, it making my head hurt.
No, but I know exactly what.
Caught on fire.
It's
Why was it so
burning
flammable?
It's made out of kindling.
Why is it?
Well, usually fur isn't that flame. I mean, you ever try to burn hair? It makes a big. It makes a.
She was
Bad
a
smell,
long-haired. She was a long-haired Persian, and the Persians underneath have a consistency of fur, which is almost like cotton. So it's very. It's not quite matted, but it is. So when it went, and her beautiful white belly became a very singed white belly.
Well, Eric, I did want to build on what you were saying about the posing and stuff. It reminds me of when the prequels first came out for Star Wars, and they had scene after scene after scene of 2 people talking in front of a green screen or walking in front of a green screen, and all the work was being carried in the background by the CGI. And as good as the CGI is, it's still horrible. It's not, like, it doesn't feel real at all. Like, they're not interact. Whereas that's why I think they went back to, in a lot of the stuff, back to actual guys with suits on. Instead of having CGI for a lot of stuff, because it doesn't feel real. And I think that's the same thing. Like the pictures are posed like they're stock photos that are going in an insurance booklet. And I used to make insurance booklets. I know what I'm talking about.
It's very safe art, and it's something else that was pointed out to me is that everybody looks like they're human with just a different, like, funny ears. It's like the original Star Trek.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, like the original Star Trek.
It's a human, but we'll give them a little different haircut and give them funny teeth. The dwarven features.
Whoa! That's maybe Star Trek, but Star Wars always went for the full facials.
He's saying Star Trek. Yeah.
Star Trek. And I'm saying the new D&D artwork is similar, and it's like they don't think that people can to dwarves and elves and orcs unless they see themselves. It's just like an orc is just it's a different colored human with funny teeth and ears that hunts with hawks or falcons, and dwarves work in a forge, but they all look like humans, just a little stocky. because you don't want to offend you don't want to offend a real dwarf, I guess. I don't know, but the art just seemed very corporate. Does that make sense?
Well, the
It
art
seemed
definitely seemed corporate, but the whole the whole artistic theme of coziness and all the different uh, the Star Trek style collaboration of different looks and stuff.
Mhm.
That's actually kind of old. I mean, that's always been a thread throughout fandom, starting with the first cosplays back in the 50s and 60s at
Mhm.
uh, at the World Cons, and it comes and goes. But for the most part, it didn't hit the RPG world. It was mostly confined in the computer gaming world, especially in World of Warcraft. But now it's hit D&D in a major way.
because when you're showing art for, I don't know, a game like Dungeons and Dragons, where generally speaking, and I guess maybe we'll know differently when 6E comes out. I know they're calling it 5E forever, but it isn't. Whenever the next edition comes out, because if you're trying to get people a game or a new rule set or new books, action scenes, right? You want to show. Why are we showing people? I don't know, like the Elven scene put me to beautiful artwork. I'd be happy to have it hanging on my wall, but it's not what I want in my RPG book that makes me go, I want to play an elf. I won't want to play this elf. Oh, it's like, oh, I want to play a baker. No, I don't want to play a
Yeah.
baker.
Well,
So
like
Well,
my
they did
favorite
try.
art piece ever is the one from I think it's from Dragon magazine of the giant skeleton jumping out of the snow.
Oh yeah,
There's,
oh,
I think she's a woman and
cover.
she has a bow and arrow, and so
Yep.
she's like totally surprised because she doesn't have even a melee weapon. Like it's like you just get that sense of terror of a monster coming out at you, and you don't get any of that. I mean, what is it? Diversity in Dragons pointed out that if you look at that new player's handbook cover, you can't even see the villain is half covered by the text at the bottom of the page because they're not even a part of the composition. Really, they're like,
Well, the colors. I say the whole color theming is poor. It's very hard to distinguish.
oh
It's
yeah,
like all these movies and shows that they're filming in ultra dark mode.
Yeah. And by the way, this is what Greg's talking about.
yep, yeah.
Yeah, that was a
The
great
Google
photo.
flu work.
Yeah, I
I
mean
mean
the
that.
biggest sin that they do for artwork for an RPG is they made it boring. You can't have boring artwork.
No,
You
it
just
shouldn't.
can't.
It shouldn't. It should. I mean, I look at this cover and I could probably give Rob 5 minutes. Give me 15. I can design an adventure, write out something real quick that's using what you're seeing there, and it'll be fun for your players and great. Um, the artwork, and here's the thing: the artwork we're seeing for D&D next forever. This is the artwork they want you to see. This is the artwork they think is going to get people excited about their
That's right.
game. I mean, this isn't like the artist going, "Well, I'm very proud of this piece. Let me show this off." No, they're being told, "Show these pieces off," and the artists are like, "All right, cool. Well, we did it to spec, right?" And I'm sure they're proud of it, but this sells. As when I did Swords and Wizardry Continual Light, I showed her that initial cover by James Shields, and she grabbed the book out of my hands, and she was 6. Go. I go, yeah. This cover sells. And she's holding it up like this. It sells. Oh my! I want to play this, and I want to play this. I want to play this dragon. I don't want to play romantic elves or dwarven bakers or orc falconers. I mean, you can have that stuff in the book, certainly, but that's not what you should be selling people to get them excited to spend money on a new edition that you've also told them they don't really need to spend on because it's not a new edition. So it's a confusing signal that they're already giving because it's not a new edition. Although they did reveal you can't mix 2014 and 2024 books. You can mix characters created with 2014 with 2024, but you have to adjust them, which tells me
Can you post a
it's
link to
more.
that?
It was an article. I'd have to find it again,
Okay.
but it was Tondo, same guy. He was talking about it, and he was
This
saying,
guy couldn't ride on enough coattails. It is, man,
you know,
he's just stealing other people's thunder. That's all he does.
but he was saying that you first off he said you can't mix the books. So if you're playing with the 2024 Player's Handbook, you can't use a prior because although it's the same system, there's a different, I don't know, balancing issue, which I'm sure there is, because we've already heard it.
Oh, balance.
I So what he was saying is that yes, but he also said you most likely would want to design a new character using the they didn't call it the revised rules. They don't even call it that. They call it the 2024 rules, which won't be all out until 2025.
Right.
So here's my question, and I'm going to just throw this out to the panel. We all listen, except for Greg, we all went through the transition from 1E to 2E. I know, Greg, you're the young one, but and for most of us, there was your campaign moved on. We were already using efficiencies from the Dungeoneers and Wilderness Survival Guides. There wasn't that much. There was very little actual change.
Don't worry about that yet, Eric. I'll get to
Okay.
it.
There was very little change to the rules. There was some, but it wasn't huge. But if you could, and we used to run basic adventures, basic D&D adventures with 1E and 2E. It fit. If you're telling can't use my player's handbook with my DMG, it means one of two things. If they're not compatible, or for a business reason, you're telling people they can't because then people are going to not buy all your books. The problem is you're releasing the player's handbook in September, your DMG in November, and your monster manual in February of 20. You're telling us that we got to spend 5 months of buying piecemeal rules that we can't integrate into our campaign until we get them all because we can't mix the books. Again,
It's business reasons.
I
It's
agree.
just bad business, though. It's one thing if an independent publisher who's never gone through things before screws up and goes, "Oh, I'm making this edition, but you don't really need it. It's just adjusting some things that I changed or whatever." It's another thing when it's your seventh dance at the rodeo. Yeah, you know exactly how this is supposed to go, and they're bungling it. I don't know how they're still a business. Like, what? Why are you running your business this way? It's terrible marketing, terrible communication, terrible interaction with your customer.
I
wouldn't
agree
put
with
up with this from Home Depot. Shit.
I agree with you, Greg. However, everything that they previewed, that's actual rules content, it's the same Titanic. It's just reshuffling the deck chair. So the guy saying that, oh, you want to rebuild your character, it's a business thing, and it was a stupid thing to say because it means, like you said, Greg, it's just going to sour people on buying the new stuff to replace your old stuff if they paint a picture that is incompatible.
Which is funny because do we all remember D&D Next? I mean, Greg, this is how many of us. Do we all remember how Monty Cook was pitching D&D Next? Greg, do you remember?
I mean, there was a lot of messaging, but it was kind of
No,
like a blend of old school, and then like it was gonna be different. It wasn't gonna be like fourth edition. It wasn't going to be like third edition. It wasn't going to be like second. It was going to be like a synthesis of all of them into one coherent solution.
But what could you do? You could take your basic character from basic D&D, basic expert. You could take your 1E character with your third edition character, with even your fourth edition character, with the D&D Next character, and all sit at the same table and all play the same game.
Well, that was kind of a ludicrous. That was kind of an insane claim. I think when he made it, people were like, "Yeah,
I was
whatever."
like, yeah. But now we've gone in the totally other direction of, hey, we're not changing the edition. It's still 5e, but we're going to go from 5e 2014 to 5e 2024. Oh, and you can't mix the books because they're not really compatible. But it's the same. It's the same game.
As far as I can tell, it's the changes are. It's less than the changes that went from 3.0 to 3.5. There are new abilities. There are new arrangements of how the classes, what goes into classes, which I'm trying to bring up now, and but I think it's overblown, and it's a big mistake if what John Totaro said. Not to say they're 100% compatible, but it's.
There's a lot you can do. I mean, I could take a Shadow Dark character and drop it into Joe's 2E game, and we could make some adjustments and roll with it. It's still got attributes. It's still got equipment. It's got some basic. We could convert that over. I think everybody's capable of doing that. I mean, I never played fourth edition enough to know this, but from third to fourth or fourth to fifth or whatever. But you still, if you're running a business where you want people to buy books, you need to be clear, like, hey, this is exactly what we're doing.
Right.
This is what the differences are going to be. This is what you're going to be, doing. I mean, I can't see. I'm not saying I'm some mastermind businessman, but I wouldn't do this in my descriptions of my products on DriveThruRPG, much less if I was a multi-billion-dollar toy company. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so if you can show my screen, Eric.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is 5.0 Fighter, and this is the new 2024 Fighter. So basically, they still have fighting styles, but they now, instead of being an explicit list of stuff that you pick, archery, defense, dueling, they're now in the list of feats. So there are feats are called fighting style feats, I guess. You still have second wind, but here's they have a new ability called weapon mastery. And your weapons, all weapons have certain properties on it, and it allows you to take advantage of those properties. And then they add an ability to your second wind at second level, which is, so it looks like you have action surge and normal 5e. This feels incomplete, but let's see. Tactical mind. Looks like they ditch action surge. If this is actually all the abilities, but if you go through this list, tactical mind, fighter subclass, tactical shift, and then you go through the same list on 5e, you can see it's like a similar progression, but yeah, they tweak some abilities, they change some things, and it's still the same game. So for them to say that incompatible while they have that
Oh,
space and lead.
you can't mix the books at the table. He didn't say incompatible. He said you can't mix the different. You can't mix your 2014 books with the 2024 books. You can have a 2014 character at the table, but you'll want to convert it because it's going to be underpowered if you don't. And if you convert it, then your 2014 books are not usable at the table anyway. They're saying that you can use old adventures, certainly, but they're saying that the 2014 books and the 2024 books do not mix at the table. And you're showing a different progression, and this is apparently why they're saying that. And obviously, the argument is we didn't change the core rules. The engine is still the same. We've tweaked it. We've added, we've made the engine go a little bit faster. We added a little RPMs to it, little horsepower, and don't bring out your old. If you bring out your old book and try to bring the claim it's the same, it's not really close enough. I mean,
So the
that's
question is, so in the end of the day, is this going to be well received? Like, we had Windows XP, everybody used it for a while, and then we had several other versions of Windows after XP that weren't so well received. But then we have Windows 7. Everybody goes, yeah, Windows 7. But Vista, everybody goes, wow, Vista, sucks.
Yep.
Or Windows Me sucks. So is this going to be a Windows Me, or this is going to be more like Windows 7?
Well, I think they are aiming for the power gamers. And I'm going to make a blanket statement. And if you are a 5e player, I'm not saying this to offend you because we dealt with power gamers too. As ultra gamers, you always had somebody who was trying to figure out the optimal build. All right, but the thing is, 5e has been built on building the optimal build. People do their out in advance what they need at each level to get the maximum impact, and you can screw your character up irreparably if you don't take the right feats or skills in the
right.
right order. So they are playing to that as their strength.
They
And
say that, Eric, but is that true?
well, that's how they're selling it. They've already mentioned that characters in the 2024 rules update, whatever. Again, not a new edition. It's just the 2014 rules and the 2024 rules. That's how they're differentiating it. They're saying that the characters in the 2024 rules will be more powerful. They're not saying how much more powerful. Um, I believe it's mostly accelerating some of the advancements of this tree, but
Well, if this article is accurate, it looks like I feel that the article is incomplete. It's not like it's not like the Word document I was showing you earlier.
right.
But so I'm going to assume that extra attack is there, action surge is there. So if that's true, then the second win is an addition, which boosts the power level at second level, or not. I'm sorry, tactical mind at second level. And then, you have these weapon mastery, which is in addition to your fighting style, so that boosts your power. So yeah, I think you're right. They're catering to the power gamer. I mean, and it's sad in a bit of a way because for a long time, D&D 5e was very restrained on the rules, and then they came out with Xanadars, and I ran a 5e campaign, not with any. Tim, you weren't involved with this campaign, but two of the guys I played with were total power gamers, and they convinced me to allow all the options, multi-class, feat, and these are things that in the current version of 5e are optional rules. You don't have to play with them unless you allow them. But he showed me how he could break the system. He made a sorcerer, multi-class it with warlock, he could cast darkness, see out of the darkness spell. The darkness spell would remain up, and he would Eldritch Blast because he was also a warlock, and everybody would have disadvantage on him. And plus, as far as role playing goes, he was in darkness, so you couldn't see him. And that was my bad, and I rolled for it, and I figured ways around it. But yeah, I saw the power gaming mentality of 5e in full blown. But if you don't allow feats, like you take it at the word, it is an option. You don't have to
Right.
allow it, and you don't allow multi-classing, then he couldn't do what he did. And if this
Okay.
edition allows multi-classing by default because it's what players want, and they allow feats and make it an integral part of the system like they are about to, then they're going to run into the same. It's gonna crater within 2 years. Is my opinion.
Well, here's my thought on it, Rob. Okay, because listen, we've all dealt with Blade Singers in 2E, right? Totally unbalanced kit. Yes, there are workarounds. However, they are, and another thing, by the way, yes, everything in those books was optional. Everything, but once that book came to the table, your players were like, "Oh, the fighter's book, right? The fighter's book. Everything there is we're using it all, right? Because I bought it." Oh, you bought it. All right. Well, I guess players don't want to hear these rules are optional. The assumption, and this is we all know this as DMs. The assumption is not to a table like Joe the lawyer with 24 pages of house rules and be told the game is by the book. All right.
That's being generous.
Yeah.
Buy the book 2E. Oh yeah, these are all my house rules. It's like this is more reading than I've done in how long. The idea usually is if it's in the rule book, it isn't a switch that goes on and off. All these things are by default on. And if a DM is taking something out, players often become, don't be offended, anybody out there, bitchy. Okay? They become bitchy because they come into the game with the assumption that I can do X, Y, Z, and you're telling me we're not using Z? Well, then I'm going to be a miserable ass fuck. And
there's,
I'm
the group I'm refereeing once a month. Dave Honadel's, Tim, you remember Dave Honadel's group. Hold on.
Oh, that's.
Hold on.
I feel like I'm going to be doing a Get Smart deal here.
Yeah.
Oh, that thought, Chief.
Yes.
I'm bringing in the cone of silence, and
Yeah.
I'm putting it on Rob.
That's right.
All right. Anyway, so
some guy named Honadel.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're talking about Honadel, Dave.
Honey.
Yeah.
Dave, we called him Honey back in the day. Anyway, his group is used to playing with all the options. And I told him, because of my experience in the group, I'm not doing that. And I set clear expectations. And I explained, look, I have these things. I'm not saying that they're good at all the options, but I do have some things. And one of the things I do allow players to take a feat, but only if you're human and you only get 1 feat. Okay, you only get 1 feat at first level, and I did that because I want to keep my computer or my campaign as human centric as possible. So that's my solution in 5e, as I allow the variant human write up, which is you get +2 to two attributes. And you get the feat of your choice. And that's the only time you're allowed to take a feat. So half the party is human. But yeah, I think if you set expectations, it can be handled with an arbitrary 5e group and they won't bitch about it because that's your campaign. But I will say that the OSR, one thing I love about the OSR, that it's not just because of the old school expectations, but it's also because we don't really have a dominant publisher publishing out loads of supplement. Instead, we have dozens of retro clones and near clones
Right.
and feel-alikes. So we have virtually the idea that when you go to a table, it's the DM's rule. If you don't want to play with those rules, then you're not going to be at that table. That's the strength of the OSR.
Well, here then I'm gonna throw something else out then. What do official Wizards, and I'm throwing this out there because I honestly don't buy official adventures, but do official Wizards of the Coast adventures assume feet? Because the adventures assume feats, that means WotC is writing stuff to assume have feats. And I mean, I'm just saying, I'm arguing as not even a power gamer, but I'm arguing as that asshole gamer who's going to go.
You mean today,
Wow,
or what they're going to do?
This is
No,
just a
right now,
mechanical question, really.
Right now,
Yeah.
Is
no.
anybody actually buying them?
The adventure? Well, that's a different issue, Greg. But the adventure, all the adventures I have run or played through, yes. If you don't use feats and just take the +2 attributes per every 4 levels, then yeah, those characters work just as fine as the one that takes feat. Unless the only problem comes is when you use Xanadar or Talsha's, and they start doing those multi-class thing. But those characters wind up being broken for everything, you know.
Well, see, I'm going to make an assumption that WotC is going to try to find a way to prevent the breaking of. People love multi-classing. They loved it back in our day. You know, especially like the 1E multi-class where like, hey, magic users can cast in armor. This is awesome. As long as I'm a fighter class, and all this other stuff. But I'm going to assume that they're going to try to find a way to fix the multi-classing aspect. But they're not doing away with it. I mean, I've never spoken to a 5e player aside from Rob, who was like, "Oh, we don't use feats." It's like, no, it's a default. Rob is currently running 5e with a group that has an OSR mentality, which is awesome. But
no, the 5e group he's running for right now is a 5e group. But they don't have an OSR. Yeah, that's a 5e group. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Dave started way back in the day, but he's a power gamer through and through. He always has.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the feat he took was some armor feat that reduces damage by 3 points, and yeah, I quickly tell that he abused the hell. That was his in, and he's always there at front and center of the fight, and all these NPCs are beating on him until he meets spellcasters.
As far as like the adventures that they're writing, I don't see that as a problem anyways. Their problem is trying to write a good adventure. I mean, I've bought quite a few of their adventures because I like studying different adventures and seeing how they put things together and how they come up with things. And a lot of their structure of their adventures is just jacked. I mean, it's the only ones that I thought that they did well with were the old ones that they rewrote for 5e. I thought they took those and they did a pretty good job kind of converting them and that. But the ones that they tried to write on their own, they were clumsy and just. I don't know. I was trying to find because when I take apart stuff, I want to see what's good about it, but I also you can learn more from what they do poorly than they do good sometimes, and unfortunately you get to learn a lot from their adventures on what not to do.
Tim, let me ask you this: I don't look at this stuff, but I've heard people say that they hire writers who've never even played before and who are feeding in and ideas, and so maybe they're putting things together in a way that you will go, well, this wouldn't work, but in their mind, as somebody who's never been involved, they don't know, players wouldn't respond to that situation that way or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like a movie script that's been written by 5 different people too. It's like you can tell that the person who maybe wrote this section didn't write this section, or it's just like inconsistent with. It's almost like they didn't talk, like they were maybe very modular on how they constructed this adventure, but sometimes the puzzle pieces don't fit together that well, so they just kind of smush them together, trying to make it look good.
I haven't bought an adventure since Saltmarsh. Now, I didn't buy all the adventures prior to that. I bought the first one, the dragon ones, and then I picked and choose the ones I bought after one. But after Saltmarsh, I have to say none of them appealed to me.
I'm
none
not
of them were
5e
worth the
guy,
money.
these are all mainly adventures here because I wanted to read them. I wanted to see how they were putting them together, because that's what I like to do. I like to buy people's adventures and then just kind of meta through them and dissect them and see how they put them together. I think the biggest problem I saw in their adventures is they were trying to make them so epic campaigns every time, and they forgot how much fun it was to the rat in the cellar. They forgot that just the stupid rat in the cellar cliche still can be a lot of fun. If the adventure, I'll tell you what, if the adventure writers for Wizards of the Coast would take a crash course, and I'm gonna get a big smile from Rob for this one. But if they would just take the simplest adventures from Harn, which are about just everyday people and just everyday things, and read those and take a master class in subtleties and like just nice connections and how to build that, it would take them so much further than the shit that they're trying to produce and not doing well at.
But Tim, everything that was made more than 3 years ago is racist and sexist and horrible and can't be read.
Right.
Okay, but you can have whatever political persuasion. I have seen conservative authors write shit. Okay, I've seen liberal authors write shit. I've seen them write, conservatives write good stuff, and liberals write good stuff. What matters here is the adventures are not good, period, by any standard.
Yes, no argument.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter what they thought, what the current slate of authors.
Yeah, but
think
Rob,
about what was 3 years ago. What they're
if
writing
the
now is
problem
not
if
good.
the problem is you don't know how to write adventures, you can't adopt the position of all adventures written in the past are full of horrible things and not read them.
If we were having
that's where you're going to learn.
If we were having that debate, you would have a valid point. But here we're talking about the quality of adventures.
Right, but where I think it's almost a valid point, because I don't get in that argument. You know that, Rob. I don't give a shit either way. But when they put themselves in a position that they do, Wizards of the Coast always try to they may not say it outright, but they do kind of, through other stuff. It puts them in position, though, to not be able to write a good adventure. It almost handcuffs them where if they.
I'm not sure if I buy that. I would say it made more difficult because what they do is cut themselves unnecessarily from the past.
Well, if you haven't read the adventures, you have to read the adventures, though, to know. You can't. I mean, I know you disagree with me, but you have to read the adventures to be able to.
But that's what I meant. I meant to say that. If they're not reading the adventure, then the task of writing a good adventure now becomes that much harder.
Actually, I think there's an additional step there. They aren't just not reading the adventures. Even if they're reading an adventure, they're not playing that adventure. It's one thing for you to read. It's one thing for you to read Caverns of Thracia. You can skim through it. You can go, okay, I understand that there's this faction and this faction. It's another thing to play it and see the players having to make decisions. Okay, if I cross this chasm, I'm going to be in this territory. If I do this, I'm going to do that. Like the actual process of this is not creative writing in totality. It is partially, but it's also you're designing an experience for other people to have. So if you just read the creative writing, you can't see the thing that's going to happen at the table very clearly. You have to actually use it. And And if they aren't even willing to read it, then they sure as hell aren't willing to actually experience it. So then when they try to write their own adventure, they don't know what they're doing.
So there's actually a non-political that's a good example of this. Over the decades, there are a lot of fantasy RPG from other companies. Their authors are very disdainful of D&D dungeons,
Sure.
and they don't play them, and they don't realize what their strengths are. And I think a lot of these adventures from alternate companies, when they put out an adventure, lack something because they studiously avoid trying to do anything that smacks of a
Yeah.
D&D style dungeon, and they suffer for it. Where, okay, you don't want to write a D&D dungeon. That's fair, but there's stuff to learn and that you could incorporate it. And people like it to harm people, they do incorporate it. So, when they have a cave or something, there's a little bit of the D&Dism, but it serves to enhance that part of the module while they still get to do the stuff they're really interested in.
And there's also another dimension of if you don't play the game enough, you don't know what problems you even need to solve. So, like, if you aren't running adventures enough that you don't know, that means that a GM, as well prepared as the GM can be in a lot of cases, there's going to be times where the players go, I'm going to go down this hall and open this door. And the GM is not 100% familiar with the room that they're going into. And so the GM is trying very quickly to read box text, room description, whatever it is, as fast as they can in order to begin describing it to the players. So if you've never actually had that experience, you don't know how you need to be designing things to assist somebody who's in that position, using icons. Should you put at the beginning of the description that there's something that they need to describe right away? Because if you put it at the bottom of the description, they're going to start describing the room and go, oh yeah, and there's a bugbear punching you in the face. Like, well, wait. That should have come at the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you walk into the room and there's this elaborate thing and blah blah blah, and you get down to the bottom, and you're like, oh, I forgot. There's fog in the room and you can't see anything. Like, they should have put that description at the top of the thing? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't, unless you run these things regularly, you don't know what problems you even need to be watching for.
And these lessons, and I know we like to make fun of it, but these lessons, if you choose to make an adventure or a campaign around the running of a barista, they're relevant to that as well.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to bring that as an example. Okay, because everybody makes fun of the barista thing. I get it. The thing is they could have done something with it. I mean, you can take all these shitty things and you can make them good. I mean, I understand barista. Okay, it just ties into what people like today or whatever. The thing is there was no cost to anything. It was just like, it was a simulation. It was like one of those games, like, was it, Cake Shop #2, and then you're like making cakes and doing stuff on that. Because even what was the one book, and I have it behind me, but I can't think of what it's called now. The one where they had all the different ethnicities and different cultures kind of write an adventure for it. I forgot what the collection of adventures were, but you know which one it is.
Oh God!
It wasn't Candlekeep, was it?
Was it Candlekeep? I don't. But you guys know what I'm talking about.
One of the Strixhaven ones.
No, it wasn't Strixhaven. But anyways, so they took different cultures and they wrote adventures around them, which was great. I have no problem with that. In fact, I want to see that. I was looking for it. Even while you guys were giving it shit, I'm going to read it first. I want to see what it's like.
I wasn't giving it shit.
No, I know you weren't, Rob. No. But, but anyways, so what I saw in it, they had what they did where they spent, where I saw where their efforts were creating characters. They really liked making NPCs. They liked making what they thought were interesting NPCs. The problem is they didn't have the interesting NPCs doing anything interesting in the adventure.
It's like what I say for Sandbox. If you want to do that stuff, you got to have interesting NPCs doing interesting thing in an interesting location.
Speaking of which, Rob, Didn't you write a book about that was deal of the day yesterday? How well did that do?
All right.
He's
Yeah.
been talking about it in the chat.
I got 497 sales.
That's great.
It kicked it over.
So you couldn't hit 500, huh? Couldn't hit 500, Rob?
Another failure.
Well, I have over 500 sales because I had one person buy the basic rules for my Majestic Fantasy RPG. I had another person buy a copy of Black Marsh, and two people bought the Island of Piade, and so I had over 500 sales, and
That's great, Rob.
and I made over $1,000 in a day.
Yeah.
This episode brought to you by Piade Sports Drinks. Drink Piade's new Mystic Mountain Blueberry today.
Look, if you don't shut up, I'll bring up all those advertisements I created. So
I think you should use them, Rob.
Yeah,
See,
there you go.
You think I'm ribbing you because of some animus or something? I want you to run with it, sell it.
Okay,
man.
So
include a 6-pack with every purchase.
And Tim can attest to this. While I have my moments, I am humor challenged. I know my limits, Greg. So I appreciate the encouragement. But if I were to try to do that deliberately, it would not go well. If I get inspired, I have my moments, but not when I.
You can eat a Red Lobster.
Yeah, that was awesome, Mr. Gunn. Oh man, Mr.
I had to put my mute on for that one. Oh my god! You're killing me.
But I just hope this upcoming, because we've seen, the whiz heads or whatever you want to call them, like take this turn. Unfortunately, all we can do is just see if it's not going to make much difference for probably any of us here. None of us are really going to. Maybe Rob, it'll be more of a thing. I don't have any intentions on buying the books really at all. I'll still probably buy the adventures though, but I'm not going to buy the core books. And just kind of see.
Sometimes I have nightmares somebody might give them to me as a gift.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I probably will buy the book only because
you're a book hoarding person.
Because over there,
you've got a problem.
I have all the editions of D. I know it's hard to see, but behind there, are all the editions of D&D, and I'm not going to break the trend now.
Yeah,
I even have 4E. In fact, I still think the 4E Dungeon Master Guide is the second best Dungeon Master.
It surprisingly it is. Well, did you ever read the second Dungeon Master's Guide for 4E? It has a second one. That's even better.
4E really? Dark Sun. The 4E Dark Sun supplement is actually really good. It's really good.
Is it?
I might have to buy that one.
Because the PDF Fairy can arrange a delivery for you, Rob. Don't worry about that.
This one, Rob. This is the only 4E book I have left.
Huh. Because they gave great advice on running adventures and setting up adventures. Yes, they had the encounter building, but they in the DMG they talked like it was optional. It's like, here's a tool if you want to use it. No. Here's how you do it. And they had a complete setting and they had a complete town. It was a very impressive book. Of course, AD&D 1E by Gygax is always going to be the king for me, but
no.
But hey, look, it was a book that even 6 years after we got it, we opened up to a random page, started reading. Oh, I didn't know that was in there.
Well, Rob, I just had this idea. Since you say you don't get the humor, I'm going to just give it to you straight. Okay, so here's what you do. You take those AI pictures that you made. You print them out. You take a Gatorade bottle. You rip the label off of it. You put this Piade label on it, and then you start putting them in the backgrounds on the shelf, put them on the air conditioner behind, like stack them up, so people will be like, what is that? And then they'll look and they'll go, oh, Piade. And you can make more sales. You can break 500, my friend. You can get up into, no, I don't mean to diminish 500 is a very, very solid. I mean, that's a big sales number in the role-playing game.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for a recent release.
Yeah. I mean, as quickly as you've hit it, it took me almost a year to get there with Shadow Sun. I mean, that's a fantastic number.
I just want to take an aside about the logistics of that. So what happened, folks, is I had the Kickstarter, and I worked on fulfilling the Kickstarter. But when I released it for public sale, I had a lot of what they call promotion points saved up on Drive-Thru-RPG, and to get the deal of the day takes a long time. You put yourself in a queue. So you're looking at, I put myself in the queue at the end of March, or sorry, the middle of April. And it's only yesterday.
Well, that's not bad though. That's pretty quick.
Yeah. So I knew, we all know the story about RPG sales. You make most of your sales the first month and then it starts tailing off. So I figured I would do a deal of the day. And I may be a little bit too aggressive in my pricing because below a certain amount, people become price insensitive. But I picked 80%. What the hell? And it worked out really well. So if you guys are doing it for your own project,
I have enough publisher points. I could do 2 of them. Looks like, but I mean, I wouldn't do them right back to back or anything.
Well, you can only queue up one at a time.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, so it's definitely feasible. So far, I've only used them to run banners, which worked really well during the Shadow Dark Kickstarter timeframe because I used the Shadow Dark font in my banners, and that really drew a lot of attention.
There you go.
Yeah,
that works. Yeah, well, you got enough products, Greg. You could, well, I guess you get your big one you just released. Did you get that in print yet? Or
it's in where it's been shipped for long enough that it says I could turn it on, but I still haven't gotten the proof yet. So like it's close. Elvis has left the building.
All
right. So
there.
Just for Greg, can you show my screen again?
Oh, there it is.
Yes. See, I'm telling you guys, like if he printed that and put it around, because you wouldn't have to do the full wraparound. You just got to cover the front of the bottle. So get a purple Gatorade and cut that out and put it on there, man. You could begin putting those in all kinds of like backgrounds. You could leave them at cons so pictures get taken so that there's people drinking Pieade. I'm saying, like, you could make this a big thing.
Okay. And everybody on the chat group I was part of got in on the action. So, oops, hold on.
Wrong direction.
Loading.
Yeah, that's a huge.
I was going to say your giant map.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
is that a 40 by 20 foot map there, Rob, or something?
It's that lady's map of Greyhawk. So somebody suggested Viz Lemon Lime.
Yeah.
And Tim suggested Cultish Cranberry.
Yeah.
And then that inspired me to come up with.
Yeah. Tim came up with that tagline. Yeah. Refreshment where you don't have to sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, the AI generator mangled that one. And before we switch away, I did find among my Dragon Magazine archive. Is that your favorite picture, Greg?
Yeah, Eric had it up earlier. Yeah.
Well, here's mine. Oh, not that. That's a good one, but this is my favorite one from the old Dragon.
See, that just looks like a friendly encounter in England in the late 800s.
You Philistine.
That looks foreign-like. I know why you like it.
It's Arthur facing off of Mordred. Although this one,
Foogly, hold on.
What do we got?
Foogly just did this. Rob Conley, he added
Brown.
Oh man!
Oh my God!
man, we got to turn that into an avatar picture right there. I mean,
if Joe was here, he would have said, "Already did it." That's
Oh,
fantastic.
God. Yes. Thank you, Fubi.
Now I know people had a lot of comment about AI art stuff, but when it generated those advertisement, okay, maybe it's interesting for that kind of thing. It was
me-
uncanny. That was uncanny. What it just generated with a simple prompt.
Oh man,
Uh,
I need to find
don't
some
think
way
we- I don't
to
think we can
start
practice.
creating sports drinks for my role playing game material.
oh,
That is great for giggles. Yeah, when Matt and Rob get into dueling
doing
AI art
AI.
battles. Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
mean? We're on the same page, me and Matt.
I know, but it's
Oh,
funny
you
when you
cannot
guys start
see each other.
trading.
Oh, when we
Uh,
trade images, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of dueling, not making fun of each other. No.
No, you guys
Oh.
are you're down with the wonderful intellectual honesty of the AI. I'm down.
I'm still not going to use it. I'm still for the same reason I'm not going to use a randomly generated sector. Just going to print out a traveler subsector and print it and call it a day. I'm not going to use AI in my product. In my products.
I've started adding some stuff in the front cover, inside cover, where I have like a faded watermark for like that blank page at the front of a book, and putting that no AI was involved in the making of the product, just to
Mhm. Well, I
it'll
meant
be
when I
in
was
there
running
because I'll
the
forget to
zine group.
clarify. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was running the zine group, that was a big when that started coming up. That was like a real big push for that. That people were making those logos, with the AI slash, through it. Everybody's making different ones to put on there. So no, I mean, you completely get it. Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean,
Joe's still in the chat, and he's not here.
Yeah,
is he
no.
still in the chat?
He's
He's such a
Yeah,
shithead.
Joe's not really in the
The
chat.
hell, Joe, get
Yeah, what-
on. If you're either on
Oh,
vacation
that's
or
what happened?
Oh no, I see. That's a copy of you.
Oh,
Yes.
we need Joe. Oh,
We
right,
have,
right.
okay.
Joe is getting free views right now. All right, he's getting free views on his channel because we're up on his. So he's
That's
getting
true.
free views.
That's true.
Bastard.
I'll have to look
Out
at
there
that.
vacationing in Jersey land. Jersey land.
Jeez, yes, he is, isn't he? That's right.
Oh, Brad Mike just showed up.
Done.
He can't
there-
stick with his own
I think I
show.
said
He's
this
got to
before,
come to
but-
our show.
where one thing the AI is useful, if you take a scan of an old RPG book where it has random tables like all over the page, because if you just do a regular OCR, the text is all jumbled up, but the ACR is able to it knows which what entry goes what table, and it gives you a clean text copy, which was really nice.
Oh,
Not
really?
100% accurate, so you still have to do a little bit of
Oh,
proofing,
wow,
but it's
there.
way less work.
It's almost good, huh?
Well, I got some good news for Bad Mike today. I finished the writing phase of my Skyrim adaptation for Shadowdark.
Excellent.
And I have a lot of editing work to do. There's some stuff like where I started at the beginning awarding things a certain way, and then I changed my strategy, and so now I have to go through and double check that every single one of them is done the right way. I hate it when you do that. You're 100 pages in, you're like, I'm actually not going to do it exactly like that.
Yeah.
So I gotta make a bunch of those type of edits, and I need to do copy editing and double checking everything. But it's very, very, very close. I'm hoping for maybe July 4th release.
So this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else this weekend to do, so it's gonna be good. Skill trees. I don't have skill trees. I have constellations of Shadowdark.
I was going to say, don't you have constellations?
Yeah.
Don't you? Yeah.
The graphic design quality of this is probably the best thing I've ever produced in terms of just looking really high grade professional. It's gonna be my first book with a lot of color like the Starfield backgrounds and stuff like that need to come out. Although I did learn that you can't do a premium color on Drive-Thru RPG in A5. I didn't know that. Yeah, you can't. You can do regular color, but you can't do the premium color. And all you have to do is go to create.
What about digest? Can you do digest? Yeah, you can do digest.
You can do digest that way. So in the future, like, if I wanted to do something that was full color that really needed premium quality, I would need to do it that way.
Why do you like A5? Just in general.
Shadow Dark is using A5, so it's the same size book.
Well, I have something to share, Eric. So on my project.
Here we go.
Okay, so right now I'm detailing the last map, which is the lower right corner, and I'm detailing all the islands. And now I'm on this place called the Ring Island, and I thought, and it occurred to me that this place is going to be a little bit more detailed, so I'll probably write a special chapter for it. So as part of that, I've been doing detailed maps for it. So there's the western half of the Ring Island. I haven't finished the eastern half, but so this is going to be part of the map package if you want to buy it. This is going to be a 12-inch by 18-inch map. These are 5-mile hexes divided into smaller 0.2 mile hexes.
Oh, the big hexes are 5 miles. Okay.
Yep. So
Gotcha.
That's why I was showing this map right here. This area around here. So once I'm done this, I'm on to all these little upside down triangles, which are ruins and lairs. And then the last part is the settlement. Hopefully I'm done. I should bang out a lot of it this 4th of July. I have the whole week off.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that you guys aren't going to Arizona or anything?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
No, me and Kellyanne have a few day trips planned, and but other than that, I'll be working on banging out the stuff. But I just got inspired. I'm going to draw these islands so I can flesh out the entire as a single unit. And I thought, I'm kind of short. Could really just sell maps on Drive-Thru RPG and make it worthwhile to buy. Is you need about 10 maps in the package. And
I'm using that for the Shadow Rim stuff. I'm going to have the map as the first one, and then I'm going to have battle maps as 9 more pages, so that it's like a cost-effective purchase rather than it being just one map. So I was inspired by your wisdom, Rob.
Thank you. I hope it works out. I mean, I did have the Wildlands, but it's only one point of data. So this is going to be my second one. Yours going to be another one. So hopefully we get more people doing that, because having actual maps is I think, a really cool part of the game that we kind of lost with the print on demand. But now that Drive-Thru has that capability, I think more people should take advantage of it. Yeah, the shipping is what kills you. So you got to get enough maps in there to make it worth the shipping.
Yeah, you don't want to pay $4 shipping and 99-cent item.
No.
because the maps themselves are like 50 cents a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have we come to the natural end of this episode? It seems like people will run out of energy.
Like it.
It's like a moment of silence.
Well, I'm also.
All right.
I was just looking at my Drive-Thru stuff here, and my 9th level X module is now close enough for me to also technically make it available for sale, even though I haven't gotten it yet.
Gotcha.
And this is, I think, and I've asked around and nobody's answered. And if Rob doesn't know either, then I guess it's true. I don't think anybody has designed a module the way that I did here. It's basically a module that you give to the players, and it's all player knowledge from when they were first level through 8th level. So like they went to this place, they found that this is what's in that hex, this is what's in this other hex that they found, and it's basically campaign notes for them to be released, and then as they pick it up as a 9th level character, they can go, hey, we went over there and there were some giant killer bees and we took all their honey, which had healing properties. Let's go back over there and mess with it. We found this dungeon, but we never went inside. Let's go see what's over there. So the GM uses all the tools that are in Adventure Conquer King to build it out in whatever direction they go, but it gives them total freedom at the campaign level right out of the gate, and they can just look through all these notes and decide what they want to do right out of the gate. And I haven't seen anybody else done that. Rob, have you ever seen any module like that?
Okay, okay. So the module is what you hand it to the players.
Yeah,
and they say we want to go here.
Yeah, and then the GM uses the random tools in Axe to make the stuff, because Axe actually has rules. Axe 2 has rules for running a abstract dungeon delve, so they can say, I'm going to send in these henchmen and these players. They add up some stuff, they make some rolls, and this is what happens. This is how much money they come out with. So you could start out at domain level and never go into a dungeon at all and use those rules, or you could have the dungeon built out randomly by his rules for doing so.
Yeah, I gotta say, I haven't heard anything quite like that. I mean, where the book is actually what you give to the players.
Yeah.
And the random tables are found in Axe itself? Or
it's in Axe 2. Yeah.
Oh, do you know that would be an interesting synergy to see how it works out.
So let me pull it up here, just a couple pages for your show, Eric.
Okay.
But how are they getting the entire thing in one go? What's the in-game rationale for all the information?
They've already been there, right?
It's like a journal,
yeah,
Rob.
This is like their journal. So yeah. I created these icons you can see under the picture here. This is the chapter with everything that they've found so far. So it has like unresolved hostile presence, dungeon entrances, cleared dungeons, points of interest, beastman settlements, which in Acts 2, beastmen are kobolds, hobgoblins, goblins, all kinds of different orcs, classic D&D. So they actually have a settlement. Barbarians are out there, and there's one merfolk settlement, Triton settlement, right? So I put these icons in here as you flip through the pages so you can easily look for a particular thing. Like here's a dungeon entrance right here, right? So they found in these mountains that there were giant vampire bats.
Oh, let me stop you there 1 second, Greg. So in this campaign, the players are starting out at 9th level.
One of them is 9th level. The others are almost 9th level. So they can jump right into the Conqueror King part of Adventure Conquer King.
I get it now. So this you say, okay, you made up your character. This is your path exploits.
That's right. And then so there's this section where it goes through everything that they found. They found 11 dungeon entrances that they could go in. They found a whole bunch of other places. There's places where they retreated, and so there's still places out there. There's settlements that they could conquer conceivably as 9th levels. Then when you go to the back, there are some stats on the cities that these are the main cities that they've been using as their base of operations. So in Acts 2, there's a Venturer class, which is a charisma-based mercantile class, and he can set up trade routes to give them advantage. So this guy is kind of making money buying ivory here and selling metal, and then going to this city and buying metal and selling ivory, and buying silk and selling fit. Yeah, so he's got these things. So as they travel around in their boat, which they have a boat, he can make these deals. So it's all part of the way that character works. And as the 8th level character, he's almost to the point where he can begin setting up business conglomerates to run, Red Wizards of Thay operations. And then there's a thief who has started setting up his thief guild in the Blue Pearl. And he set it up as a hideout, and he has 6 ruffians already. Once he hits 9th level, he'll start attracting followers to that hideout, and he can begin setting up his own thieves guild. So stuff like there's all these high level rules in Acts 2 that you have to get up to 9th level to use. Right. So the idea is if you start out at these high levels, you can jump right into conquering and fighting using all those high end rules for army creation, for creating your guilds, for running syndicates, hijinks, all kinds of stuff that he has in the book that most people might not be able to get their character that high. But here you can just start out that high.
You know, I think that is something I definitely have not seen.
All right.
I mean, I have seen where they publish a high level adventure, had a party that was kind of tailored for the situation, so you can just jump into it. But nothing that was you could base a campaign. The closest thing is the battle system modules that they had.
Yep.
But it wasn't like that. That's far more campaign oriented.
Well, here, Eric, I'm going to pull up the map, and this is maybe 1/12 maybe of the Gavardia map for that setting that I released for X2. So this is the province of Calipuro is like a border province. It's the beyond this edge to the west is barbarian frontier. So this is all islands outside of the reach of their empire. So the empire in X2 is kind of Roman based, late Roman period. Mine is totally different. It's a blend of all kinds of different ideas. So this is, you know, like beyond that, across the sea, that you're totally outside of civilization at this point, and they've already discovered all these locations. And now they can say, okay, I'm going to try to conquer this island and set it up as my personal duchy. You know, I'm going to try to subdue these tribes. This is an orc tribe. This is a goblin tribe. I think Alfair is also a goblin tribe. Yeah, they could conquer them and have them run. You know, this is their new territory. Or they could try to land on one of these, or they could wipe out these merfolk. You know, whatever it is that's their goal, rather than it being that the module has dictated them a goal.
So, I might steal that, Greg.
Well, I have
given me ideas.
I hope this a lot of potential here, because people are like thinking everything has. They use the term on Twitter, mudcore. You know, like that you're starting out at level 1 every single time, and it's just well, if you do that, you never get to use some of these awesome rules for higher level play, running domains, running adventures and stuff, and these guys are starting with 2 or 3 henchmen, bunch of kind of NPC hirelings that are non-combat. You know, they might have an animal trainer who's training this. They're capturing wild animals and having him train them up as companions or something. You know, well, all kinds of stuff like that you just can't do at first level.
So, Eric, if you could show this.
One sec.
So, this is what I call a poetic map. But when I do these kind of maps, and I've done this 3 times before now, I handed this to the map because what happened is they encountered an NPC, in this case a dragon, who gave them kind of like what you wrote up, Greg, for a region, even though it wasn't the start of the campaign, it happened in the middle of the campaign. I wrote this as a visual summary of what they learned. And then the players took this map, and it was Doug's group, Tim, that got this map. Doug the Paladin, you played a lizard man. And,
right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they went over this map, and they were pondering where to go, who to take out, what the Nightbride Coven is, who are the Death Moon orcs here, and the Argent Seekers. But yeah, that technique I kind of used, not quite in the way you're using it, but I think there's something to your idea of actually started as a publishing tool that's a way of publishing high-level stuff that, hey, start your campaign at 9th level or 8th level or whatever, and here's the situation, here's everything you know, go forth and adventure.
Yeah, well, you certainly got the maps for it, bud.
Thank you.
But that's what I'm saying. Like all those islands, all that stuff. Like I think there's a lot of potential for players. Maybe this is just my perspective. I think players love the idea of islands because it's a fixed amount of territory that they can then take. So say,
Right.
okay, I'm going to control this island and I'm going to get 100% of its resources. So like having assets that they're traveling around by ship and all this stuff, it really brings a different feel, and they're in control. They have to plan things out ahead of time. They have to be very deliberate. They have to think like a leader. But yeah, this guy who's the 9th level fighter, who's the core of this module, he's got 35,000 gold pieces in a bank in the city that they're using as their main base, and he can finance construction of a 9th level stronghold. So wherever he decides to do it, however that they can review all these notes, so it will never play out the same. If I give this to Matt, he might choose to settle on this island. If I give it to Joe, he might raise an army with that money instead of building a stronghold and invade the barbarian people and take them over. I have no idea how any individual thing is going to play out.
This
Do
might
you play the same character though, Greg? I mean, is it so you have like a pre-made character for them to take a hold of, and then you fill in the rest?
I have 8 pre-gens, a 9th level guy, and 7 8th level guys. I got all the central classes, all 6 of them, because he has one based on each attribute. And then I added a barbarian and a paladin, which are kind of like special classes that he has. And each one of them has a totally different kind of high level agenda, right? So the fighter is interested in building a stronghold or raising an army or something like a military objective. The thief has a totally different type of high level experience. He's managing basically a little thieves guild, and he's telling people what to do and then going off to try to raise funds through adventuring or whatever and coming back. Or you could run it solo as just one of these guys, right? He calls him Crusader. I almost said cleric, but the Crusader has a religious objective, right? So it doesn't do him any good to conquer a territory with no people in it to convert to his religion. So that character is going to be more likely to want to actually take territory with people in it so that they can be converted to his religion, right? The venturer wants to make money, doesn't care about any of those things. So that they have worked to answer Mr. Gunn's question. They've worked together for these adventuring objectives, but at high level, you could start running it to where a lot of it is abstract. The sessions that you have are where these characters are meeting to discuss their shared goals. And then they may go off and 2 of them may say, let's gather up our henchmen and go deal with this problem. And the other 2 might say, we're going to sail to the imperial capital and make a big business deal and come back with a bunch of money. And they could run it like that. So you're
going to need to put a short chapter about how to handle split play, because not a lot of people are used to that.
Alex has huge amounts of the stuff in Adventure Conquer King. I'm just designing it to integrate into his stuff. One of the things
about split play, where
he talks
one player
about
does one thing and a small group does another.
He has a whole bunch of stuff in the Judges Guild about how to handle high level play. So
not high level play. I'm talking split play.
I don't know exactly, Rob, but I don't think it's a problem.
I think because if you're going to be a GM who's going to run this, you're going to need some experience anyways, Rob. So I'm hoping someone who runs this would know how to, if you're going to run domain play, you're going to have to be more of a kind of an experienced GM, I think, than a starter one.
I'm not an advocate for one-to-one play or a big bro SR guy, but I read a lot of their stuff, and I have a lot of them in my Twitter feed, and I see what they're talking about. And a lot of this high-level domain stuff is making decisions while you're in session and then running abstract things while you're out of session about what's happening. This guy went off to do this thing for 2 weeks and came back. This guy went and did this other thing. So there are techniques out there for doing all that stuff. I don't think that it would be a problem. It's just how do you want to play it? Do you want all 8 of these guys to get in the ship and sail over and wipe out a particular high-end dungeon, which only they can do? Or do they want to pursue their high-level stuff? But I mean, at the end of the day, with any high-level experience, one character is going to want to be dealing with military affairs. One character is going to be wanting to deal with something else. And that's going to happen. You can't get to a high level without that kind of situation unless you're playing Baldur's Gate on the PC or something. Like that's the only way your high level party's going to stick together 100% of the time.
Well,
I did want to bring up today. I saw somebody you made the comment about the city state. Did you see the article that was going viral this week with a lot of guys about doing the legwork for a campaign, and it used city state as an example?
No, send me the link.
Let me pull up the link here real quick.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that one too. Yeah,
I'm always interested in city state stuff.
Going back home.
They were using
what happened to Judges Guild, but oh well. I'll just, as Tim say, make it your own. Write your own, Rob. Write your own.
Oh.
Yep. So it's a guy named Sam Sorensen, who I had never heard of before. Here, I'm dropping you the link in the chat, Eric, so you can post it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he talks about the city state as one of the only modules that really presents a coherent city that you can run in the way that they do. But it sparked off a lot of conversations as well. I just encourage people to read it.
I read this, and he has a good point. The only flaw in his whole article is he doesn't know about Harn City.
Of course.
Harn.
So I admit the Harn cities aren't as exciting as the city
I was going to say,
the city state. The city state of the Invincible Warlord has its charm, with trolls and bartenders and stuff that Harn certainly does not. But in terms of the format, the Harn cities, and especially the way they do it now, it's the same. They have the same strength as the original city-state layout, and I wouldn't be surprised N. Robin Cosby was inspired by that when he wrote up, because the original Harden City, the one that came out in 1984, that they wrote it really tersely, although they fit like entire cities in 8 pages, and yet it was still usable.
So Eric, I see you kept up Mr. Gunn's comment up. Maybe I'm assuming a little much when I was talking about it. So in the BroSR one-to-one time kind of world, what they do is they have you meet together with your characters for your session, and then in between sessions there's all these ways that they handle downtime, right? So the fighter, he's looking to make regular wages. He's doing adventuring, but he still needs to put food in his belly during other times. So he's like, okay, for this week, I'm going to be guarding this caravan. And the cleric is like, well, during the week while we're not in session, I'm going to go and I'm going to cast a certain number of spells per day for these people. And I'm going to build up my god's presence in this town. And the thief says, I'm going to go steal or whatever. Yeah, I'm going to make some money on the side. So then when they get together for a session, represents, even if you don't follow exact one-to-one time, it represents the time when they're adventuring.
Right.
And then once that adventure is over in the session, then they go back to amending. Now, I will be the first to admit, when I run my own games, I pause time precisely at the end of the session, and then
Right.
when I come back, it's the next minute. But
Yeah, I do that
these guys run huge amounts of downtime, and it's easy for me to go, oh, I don't see how that would work with my style. It doesn't fit with what I do, whatever. But they're really passionate about it and believe that it works. So it has to have benefit to somebody. Yeah, it has to be working in
It's
some
an
way.
old thing called blue booking. It's like what they would do in between. I think that was the term, blue booking, where you would kind of write up a little bit about what you're doing in between sessions and stuff like that. It's an interesting. I've never done it myself. It'd be kind of interesting to
I do think
experiment.
Well, we did
to
we did a little
experiment.
bit of that with you and Ken in the Adventures in Middle Earth campaign. Remember
You mean me and Chris?
they had a downtime system, and you guys took advantage
Yeah,
of it.
they have a really
but
good
that was-
one in the One Ring also. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that, but I think this is a little bit more because the in the One Ring or whatever it was, or Adventures in Middle Earth, is that what you're talking about, Rob?
Yeah.
That one more had like you selected one thing and then it kind of added a benefit or something like that. Where this is, I mean, I guess it's the same, but you're creating it and not just picking from a shopping list that, I'm going to get eggs today or this today.
Well,
kind of
sure,
thing.
they were more game-like.
Right.
Than
I mean, I
Blue
like that concept, but yeah, because I remember doing it early on with one of gosh, I can't even remember what his name was, but what he would do, this was before even freaking email, so we're going in the Wayback Machine. We had like composition notebooks, so then when we would meet at study hall or whatever, he'd read what we were doing, and then he'd almost grade what I did. It's like, yeah, we could do that, this happens, and then we would trade off, and then when we played again, we'd pick up again from using that as a.
Well, that
I
I
don't know.
never did that, but I heard you told me about that, and I've seen other people.
Didn't last very long, but it was interesting.
One of the things I have seen is some guys say that doing this, because what happens is they'll say, my character is going to go away for 3 weeks and do this, and in the meantime, I'm going to play this other level 1 guy that I just rolled up. And then when that level 1 guy goes off to do something, then I'm going to roll up this next 1 level guy. So that they keep adding new characters to the game, and then it's like juggling characters. Like this one's going to go away for a while, then this one's going to go. I'm only going to be managing this one, and eventually I see that producing a lot of burnout and brain, focus. You can't remember what all these guys are doing without a lot of tracking and writing things down, saying this guy's doing this guy, and it becomes cumbersome in my interpretation. Now they might say, hey, we handle it okay, but that seems to be what the objections that I see people make and all that kind of stuff. It's people want to play one character the whole time. They don't want to be handing off a lot. I see a lot of that sentiment.
So in my experience, actually, I mean, I agree with that could be a problem. I seen when people avoid having henchmen for that reason. But actually the problem I found is in fact, in all my campaigns, players can take downtime if they want, but it is so rare for them to do so. They just don't want to. They want to pick up the next session right where they left. They got things to do. And they don't want to quit doing it, or they're afraid of getting a step behind their enemies or whoever they're going up against, and they just don't want to do it.
Oh, I agree that they don't want to lose that control. They don't want to.
Right.
They don't want to make a couple of dice rolls and see if their guy survives the trip as a caravan guard, because they want to be there so that if somebody draws a sword, they're the one making the decision.
Even when survival is assured, like they're researching a new spell or crafting a magic item, they don't want to do it. They just too busy living out their characters' lives to take downtime to do something So what winds up happening is they save their money and hire somebody to do it, what they don't want to do.
Could be.
I had one group figure out where every single potion maker was. They went from port to port and had me describe, and they role played it in game, so it was all legit, but they kept a list of every magic shop, every potion maker, and then the next time they made the circle of the area, they went through every one of them and commissioned projects off of them, even if it was something like a 2 healing potion that didn't cost a whole lot of money.
That sounds like Josh.
It was Josh's group, and it was Josh's group. Yes, Josh made the logistic happen, but the driver was his friend Adam, because he's the one who didn't want to spend the downtime, because he was always cooking up these plans, and he didn't want to spend three in-game weeks, because he knew he had guys, people he was rivaled with. He didn't want to give them 3 weeks of time.
That's why I'm just a spectator in this, because I do not play it the way that they describe, because it doesn't fit with what one of the things I would get into discussions with people on Twitter about would be like, I don't see my players wanting what you're describing. Like even if I understand what you're saying and how it works, that doesn't mean that I think that's what they would choose to do instead of the way we're currently playing it. But I do think it would be very interesting to run things that way for those really big, 10 plus character games that you hear about happening back before the 90s, where there were big groups of guys and stuff. I just don't think people play like, even with the tools of the internet that we have, it's very difficult to run a game of 10 people.
Well, you have to coordinate. Okay, speaking of somebody who ran a LARP chapter, who had like
LARP.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
where we had a total membership of about 50 people, with about 20 to 30 to show up event. It just gets so hard to coordinate everybody's time. It's hard to coordinate time like that.
Yeah.
And at some point, you start doing this stuff formally, and it ceases to be fun. It becomes work. That's the true downside. I don't mean to sound negative. It certainly make the attempt. It's certainly worthwhile when you manage to make it happen.
Maybe we've reached that natural end point
I'm
again.
about to say. I mean,
we
reached it. We found 25 minutes, and now we've reached it again.
Yep.
I think we're good, unless Greg has another thing to pull out.
I was saying, look for some great things from Chubby Funster in the next couple weeks. I've got 2 products I need to approve proofs on, and I've got
I want to get a copy of that players options thing you got, Greg, coming out. So I want to cover it.
That's what one of them. I'm waiting for I put it together for the PDF, because it was already PDF. So I wanted it to be POD so that you could have it all in one place. And I don't know if anybody else does layout, but it's not an easy thing to transition a book from a 8.5 by 11 to an A5 in order to get it into print. You have to resize. Resize every goddamn page. Every element has to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a colossal pain. But I put it off for a long time, and then I finally was like, I just have to get this done. And I powered through it. I'm glad I did. I've already had really great PDF sales, so it's been a very. I wish I had done it earlier, but it's the psychological loom of all the conversion of a whole PDF layout. Like, oh my god, I just put it off.
It's funny.
All right, folks.
All right.
Here, Rob Conley, Bat in the Attic. He's on drive-through. Greg Christopher, Chubby Funster. He's on drive-through. Gothridge Manor. That's Tim. That's Tim. Tim, are you on drive-through or are you just on Patreon?
No, I've been on drive-through since 2011.
I wasn't sure. I get all your stuff via Patreon. What do I know?
But I haven't put anything new out in several years.
But no matter where you go, folks,
Knowledge Illuminates has my maps in it.
No matter where you go,
Yep.
all affiliate links head back to tenkarstavern.com.
I'm not giving out affiliate links, although there will be affiliate links in the show notes. But
in the show notes. That's right.
the show notes. I show you show notes. A huge thank you to my co-host. Huge thank you to our very active live stream commenters.
Yeah.
Really, why do we need to do show prep when we have you all? Honest to God.
It's not like you're going to get it either way, though.
Yeah, you're not gonna, even if nobody showed up. Show prep.
Yeah.
I actually had one comment to say, you really should have a script.
A script?
Yes.
The script?
We do, but it's just our scripts that we take in the morning and in the evening anymore. Those are the only scripts I got.
I take a large number of scripts. They are brand
Right.
name and not off patent yet. Just saying.
Not yet.
Not
I will
yet.
say I have a topic. Hearing you guys talk about Shadow Dark, which I will not mention because I want to save it for the next podcast. But I have a topic for the next podcast.
2 weeks out, folks. 2 weeks
2
out.
weeks.
Live. So, as always, thank you to everybody here. Be safe, be well. God, roll those dice, roll them well.
Use your common sense, folks.
I no longer say that because nobody has it. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Rach and myself will be doing a Gamer's Health. I
Nice.
believe next week will be delayed till Sunday because we will be July 4th-ing a party out in Long Island. On the 6th.
And there will be no gamers' health going on there. There'll be gamer obliteration happening.
Yeah, there'll be gamer liver and kidney testing going on. Not too much. I gotta drive.
Yeah.
I gotta drive. Maybe it'll just be belly testing. I'll just eat a lot. All
There
right,
you
folks.
go.
I'll catch you all later. Thank you.
Adios.